Al Baraka Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider. Terms and conditions apply.
The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Radio Islam International or its management.
This is Sabahul Muslim.
+8 here in South Africa. It's 9:15 in Makkah al-Mukarramah. Joining us now from the Holy Lands, we have Hafiz Imran Choonara. Hafiz Imran, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the airwaves of Radio Islam International.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Maulana, and shukran for having me on air this morning, and of course to all the listeners and viewers as well. Welcome to you. May Allah bless every one of you.
So you are on Hajj, mashallah. May Allah bless you and may Allah accept. Tell us thus far into the journey, I'm not sure exactly how many days you've been there, but what would you say has been the impact on your heart and your soul thus far, even before the Hajj has commenced?
Marana, first of all, it's my first Hajj. My first time I'm coming Hajj. I'm 50 years old, so subhanAllah, this is an incredibly emotional time for me. My wife and I arrived a few days ago, actually, last week, Jumu'ah time, actually. So just less than a week ago, we arrived, of course, in Makkah. And just for me to witness, I mean, I've been for Umrah before, as many people may have been, alhamdulillah, but to witness for the first time in my life every possible, I mean, we've seen it before in Umrah, but the Hajj is different for me anyway, every possible nationality, color, size, age, I mean, you name it. And I just sit sometimes in the haram and I watch people and I just think to myself, Ya Allah, every single person been invited by Allah, and only Allah knows why, and only Allah knows what's in that person's heart. You look at old people can barely walk. You look at, I mean, it's unbelievable, subhanAllah. And of course, around the haram, because a lot of people can't necessarily afford maybe to stay in places that are easily convenient, so they sleep on the streets, etc. And you see so much of this. And for me, it's such a humbling experience, very emotional time for me. Just yesterday, seeing so many people getting ready, doing their last minute shopping, etc., for basic necessities they need. Of course, tomorrow being the first day of Hajj of the 5 days, tomorrow, or of the 6 days, whichever, and starts tomorrow, inshallah. And so just to see that and witness it, subhanAllah, for me, I have no words. I was going over my recording that I did with one of the ulama in South Africa who was teaching me and my wife and I some basics. And then he said, where Allah talks about getting ready and preparing yourself, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And Allah talks about just the provision, gathering the provision, وَتَزَوَّدُوا. But فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى, the best provision is taqwa. And he was explaining to my wife and I about taqwa being that God consciousness, the Allah consciousness, knowing that every single thing I'm doing or thinking or planning or intending, Allah is aware of that and being conscious of that, so that my actions and my niyyah gets directed by that. So for me, it's incredibly, incredibly humbling experience so far.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of the 5 days, right? It's less than 24 hours now. The countdown is really on. How would you describe the atmosphere amongst Hujjaj, especially a first-time Haji like yourself? What's running through your heart and mind as this big moment is literally hours away?
Rob, it's very emotional, because only Allah knows. I mean, my mother's been telling me for years, she says, you travel around the world, you do all these things, you haven't been for Hajj. And she said, please. And I said, yes. And my wife said to me earlier this year, you should go for Hajj. And I said, yes. And she said, even if you go alone, just go, because you haven't done it yet. And I said, yeah. And subhanAllah, and I put it in the back of my mind. And only Allah knows that for me, He chose the right moment, subhanAllah. And I'm sure for every Haji, because every person's connection with Allah is unique. And so Allah knows how broken we are. And I feel like Allah brings us to Him and reminds me, I speak for me personally, and I'm sure every Hujjaj, every Haji has their own personal connection with Allah, of course, and their own reasons why they are here. Allah knows my weaknesses. He knows how broken I am as a human being. He knows, and He's showing me how much I need Him and how weak I am and how powerful He is. And I feel like as the days go by, Allah's bringing me more down to my knees. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, on Arafah, Allah wants to prove to me that I need Him more than anything. I need, and that's what I feel like anyway. And my prayer is that Allah grants every Haji the honor of being on Arafah. and being able to beg Allah for whatever he or she wants or needs for their family, for themselves, for their lives, for their deceased ones. And that's what I feel. I feel like that Allah knows us. Of course He does. And Allah knows. And sometimes we get so busy with the world, we get so busy with things we're doing, and we get to a point where we need to realize and remember that, okay, what is really important? Who am I? Who is my creator? And how much in need of my creator am I? Versus sometimes in the world, the way we do things. And I went to visit simple Murana Musa Mia, for example, just before I came, the day before I left, a couple of days before I left. And he said to me, he said, Imran, if I give you advice, he said, and you know, he's a senior ulama, and he used to advise my father as well. So he's an elderly person, as you know. And he said to me, he said, Imran, please, when you go there, don't think you Imran Choonara, don't think you do this in this world, you do this, you so and so. He said, just leave all of that behind. He said, go there, it's just Allah's slave, and you're there as one of millions. And because on Qiyamah, it doesn't matter what your title was and what your name is, etc. It matters what you've done. And so that's what I feel, honestly, wallahi, subhanallah.
What would you say is the significance of Hajj, which takes place on an annual basis for the Ummah as a whole? We know we're going through a very difficult time. We know what the situation what the situation is like in Palestine and other parts of the world. The physical oppression, depression, poverty, and the list is a long one and an exhaustive one. What does this annual coming together of 2 million plus Muslims mean, and what impact can it have for the broader ummah?
I think there's a balance between two things: the word faith and the word fear. The world is in the state of fear in so many ways. You know, we talk about anxiety and depression. We see it so much in society nowadays because of whatever there is going on. I feel so much for young people nowadays. They're bombarded with so many different ideologies and thoughts and just on social media and stuff. And of course, we know that these tools we have can be used very positively, but it also has its downside, like anything. And there's a lot of fear in the world. There's fear when you look at what's going on to our brothers and sisters in Palestine, and you sometimes feel helpless and hopeless. But we know that Allah's plan is perfect. But we are human beings. Our human nature kicks in, and we fear what might happen, what could happen. Why is this happening? We question things. We ask questions, and I believe that the coming together of 2 million plus Muslims and the whole world and unifying around this Hajj every year reminds us, or should remind us, of the faith that we have, because there's the fear. We can live in fear, we can live in fear of things, we can live in fear of people, we can live in fear of ideologies, or we could live in faith. Who created the world? Allah. Who created humanity? Allah. Who created good and bad? Allah. Who created everything? Who created free choice? Allah. Who created this nafs? Allah. Allah created everything. Allah is the greatest. Allah is the master. So if Allah is the master, Allah is the greatest, then why should I fear whatever I fear in my life? If I fear poverty, if I fear ill health, if I fear death, if I fear another human being, if I fear an ideology that my children will be influenced in a manner that I don't agree with, or whatever the case is, why should I fear when I could lean the other way? I could lean on faith, because what are all these people coming here? And when you see people here on the streets of Mecca, for example, and you just think, wow, Allah invited that person and that one and that one, subhanallah, and that one. And some people don't have money to buy food properly. They don't have enough, but they're here. Allah invited them from every corner of the world. This is faith. This is purely faith, subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Hafidh Imran, shukran so much for chatting to us and for joining us, and we wish you an easy and an accepted Hajj. Hajj maqbool mabrur,
Ameen ya Rab,
inshallah.
Ameen ya Rab, Ameen, Ameen. And may Allah grant the barakah to every other person who's not on Hajj this year. And one message I can leave for anyone who's listening is that just have faith that if it's your time, Allah will invite you. Make the niyyah and believe it. Leave it to Allah. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Allah opened up a way for me for Hajj this year that I never imagined. I couldn't think about it. And Allah will do the same for you, inshallah, ya Rab. Shukran.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just gone 24 minutes past 8. Time now for the final episode in our series.